Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome our main speaker, Sam.
Good evening, I'm Sam, an alcoholic. I also smoked a lot of non-habit-forming marijuana that I was addicted to. Took a lot of pills. Not afraid of needles. And I don't identify with people who specialize. I know there's some real alcoholics around. Okay, yeah. This day and age, most of the people that get here drinking is what they did while they're driving around looking for drugs. Yeah. Oh, forgot my hats. I'm not supposed to. I forgot the dress code, sorry. Am I close enough to this thing? Is it all right here? Are you okay? Yeah. That reminds me of a guy I used to know. Where that came from? I have an ungovernable mind, and not much has changed. I'll try to leave you with some hope, since I have been sober one hell of a long time. But I'm not looking too good on some days, and other days, yeah, some days I feel like a whole Al-Anon group has released me. And, yeah, you ever had that happen? Don't look in the mirror. There's no reflection. They're strong people over there. Oh, yeah. They drink and work the steps. Jack gave me a list of 23 words I can't use tonight. I forgot to look at it. Would you like to hear them? Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah, to hell with you, Jack. Would you believe he and I have known each other for 46 years? Yeah, we've both been sober that time. Isn't that something? Yeah. Well, wait a minute. No, it's one of the places you can get applause for saving your own ass. I still got to go to meetings, and I still got to work the steps. I hope I never forget that and wander off. There are some people that kind of relax after a while and kick back and watch a lot of Slip-O-Vision and think, well, I've done my part. And then one of my heroes I run into once in a while, one of them right up the road here, his name is Lauren. And forget your court card? What happened there? Okay. Yeah, give him. Anyway, I've got this friend up the road here, and he's sober for 41 years, and he's also 82 years old, and he has 2 commitments, including setting up a meeting. So I hope I'd remember that I never reached that advanced stage of sobriety where I got mine. And there was a period in my life when I didn't sponsor people. You came to me. Yeah, that kind of shit. Well, that'll kill you after a while. Now, there's only 2 kinds of people here, participants and bystanders. So take your pick as to what you want to be. I'm the type that has binoculars, and I like to watch people doing one of these days I'm going to do that. And if I trace my ancestry back, I know they're the ones that slept through the Sermon on the Mount. And if you go further back than that, you'll find out they're still in the goddamn trees, watching those idiots running around on the ground. Anyway, I come from a family of alcoholics, and those who don't drink in my family should. They would be much better off. They're pretty much of a mess. I have had one hell of a life, and it's been a life since I came here instead of just running away from experiences and running away from anything. I loved drugs and I loved booze because it blotted out what I didn't like, which was reality. And I wanted to be somebody else, and I did not mind changing my name at all. Hell, Jack remembers when my name was Bill. Yeah. I'm not going to tell people the truth around here. Enough of that shit. We're going to get another name. I was afraid they might track me down because I knew there was a couple of subpoenas out and the statute of limitations hadn't begun to take up, I was in the family business, stealing. And I used to go with what my Aunt Bessie called going begging with a gun. So Aunt Bessie would give me a quarter if I would say fuck in the grocery store and embarrass my mother. Got $1 if I said it in church. And so that's how I earned my first money. My mother sentenced me to 8 years in a Catholic school where I majored in guilt, which is their big thing over there, and the minor in shame. I taught the nuns a lot of new words. They taught me about staying every night after school. Yeah, it took 2.5 years before I could learn to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And I did it to get them off my back, not for any other reason, because my Aunt Bessie had told me a long time ago, don't try and be good. Just grow up and be a son of a bitch like your father, because you're just like him. And I didn't realize that by the time I was 25 years old, I'd overshot the field. Because Aunt Bessie said to me one day, you are the grand finale of son of a bitches in this family. And I thought, I'm a nice guy. She didn't seem to know that. Anyway, I didn't drink for a long time because I didn't want to end up like my relatives. It work out too well. I kept getting caught. I ended up in a reform school after I got out of the Catholic school. I could hardly tell them apart. And I did my time in there. I was 14 years old, and I got out of there, and I was nothing but a horny little kid loose on the streets because I'd gone through puberty in about 20 minutes while I was in there. And so I had nothing but a hard-on and a bad attitude. And no place to put either one. So the usual dilemma. So I ended up in jail, and again, not unusual. I was 18 years old, and I had 9 felony counts against me, and I was guilty of every damn one of them, and I knew I was going to get put away. I was fairly certain I was going to get put away, and I did. I had to do 19 months in the state penitentiary, and I kept running into these damn cellmates that wanted to change my name to Tammy. Fortunately, I had 2 uncles in there, and they protected me, and all I did was read while I was in there and educate myself a little bit, but all I came out of there was a well-read idiot. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to live. I'd read a lot of things, but so what? I'd read a lot of things by the time I got here, but I was half-loaded when I read most of them, so it didn't mean anything. Besides, towards the end, all I could do was read book reviews. I didn't have time for books. I was in a hurry. Anyway, after I got out of the penitentiary, I started drinking and started using, and I loved it, and I realized what a fool I was for not starting earlier, because it did what I wanted it to do. It blotted out reality, and it blotted out you or anybody else that came around, and so I loved it. And I found amphetamines the first year. I loved those. I had bullshitted myself that they enhanced my intelligence. Of course, all they did was speed up my mouth. I had an amphetamine mouth and a Demerol brain, and that'll screw you up pretty quick. So I ran into a mathematical genius, and he figured out how to fill out income tax forms and get money back. And this was in the days before computers and that sort of thing. You get by with that for a little bit. We did. Got a check for $1,200. That was a lot of money in those days. We cashed it. And so we thought, well, let's do it again next year. So we did. And the second check arrived, and 2 weeks later, the police arrived. Yeah, I'm in trouble again. But that time I had used my father's name for it, and so they arrested him. My father was drunk all the time. He thought he had done it, so wasn't any big deal. That was an amend I put off making as long as I could, and I was about 2.5 years sober, and I decided I got to make this amend. It was weighing on me, and I had to go a couple thousand miles to do it, so I got on Das Airplane and went. And here's my father. By this time, he's a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thought, isn't this wonderful? Father and son, we're going to an AA meeting together. As we started out the door, he reached over in a little chest there and opened one of the drawers and pulled out a gun, stuck it down in his belt. And I thought, what the hell kind of meeting are we going to here? I said, what the hell's the matter with you? You afraid somebody's going to steal your big book? And he had one answer for everything. Wham! So I got it right in the mouth. I fell down on the floor, and while I was laying there, I was thinking, I got to make this amend to this idiot, and he's carrying a gun, and he gets very upset about little or nothing, and so while I was laying there, I was reminded that the step says, except one to do so would injure them or others. And I immediately became others. So I put off making that amend, and finally the old bastard died. So that takes care of that. Anyway, I was a witness to a killing, and I knew how to be an alive witness, get the hell out of there, and so I moved to Venice, California, where I was to live for the next 30 years of my life. And I moved into the worst place in town, and I lived next door to a girl who was a manic depressive, suicidal, schizophrenic, dope fiend, who carried 3 suicide notes and a razor blade for emergencies. She would come home every night from work, brush her teeth, turn on the gas, and go to bed. My kind of girl. Above all, I liked the way she lied. That was the important thing. She knew how to lie, that one. And what I didn't know about lying, she taught me. And a quick study. So we went together for a while, and I'm not sure whatever happened there. I mean, I don't know what your sex life was like in those days, but by the time I was mentally ready, I was physically unable. Sometimes the other party had already gone home, or you wake up in the morning and you think, what is she doing here? And who is that? And then you look on the other side of her, and there's a guy laying there, and you think, well, what the hell's he doing here? Ever had that happen? Well, never mind. Don't mean to take your inventory. Anyway, I heard about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I decided, after my father talked to me at Christmas time, he said, why don't you go over there? What have you got to lose? And I had lived in Venice for a couple of years at that time, and so I got on the phone trying to find Alcoholics Anonymous. There was no meetings in Venice at that time, and they said there was some over in L.A., so I just got on the old red car and went into L.A. to try to find Alcoholics Anonymous. Did that at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was almost 10 o'clock that night before I found Alcoholics Anonymous. It took me all day. I'm on the phone, then I'm off the phone, then I'm on the phone, I'm off the phone. I ended up walking into a meeting at a club over at the corner of Wilshire and Fairfax, the 6300 Club it was called. And I got there just 10 minutes before the meeting was over, and there was a lady sharing, and she said that she had wet her pants twice and came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought, God damn, wait till they find out what I've done. Is that Clancy? I don't trust it. I notice you have his new book back there. As Clancy sees what Bill thought he saw. Oh, yes. Watch your back on the way home. Okay. Come on, let's have a little bit of a sense of humor around here. We're all in this together. Nobody's ahead of anybody else. Stay away from groups that have dress codes. And where there's a lot of gurus telling you what to do and what not to do and all that. See, all advice is shit, all of it, no exceptions. Our book tells us that what is of supreme value is experience. And so if I can tell you some of my experiences, okay, my experience strengthens scar tissue. You have to get your own hope on some days, but I'm not going to lie about it. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I like the freedom that that brings in my life, is telling the truth to somebody, and that has not always been the case with me. I spent some period of my sobriety where everything was just wonderful all the time. I didn't want anybody to think there was something wrong with my program. And so I said, yes, everything's just fine, when inside I was dying, but I didn't want to talk about it. And I paid a price for that. Anyway, I finally found a meeting that I felt like I belonged at the damn thing. It was over on the corner of Pico and Alvarado, and it was called the End of the Line. And that sucker was the end of the line. They didn't read anything. The chairman just pounds the gavel down and says, no traditions here. It's every man for himself. And I felt at home. I thought, well, okay, I'm tired of that reading. They kept reading at these other meetings, you know. Demands rigorous honesty. I didn't want to hear that. Read something else. Finally, this guy says, no reading here, no traditions, no nothing. He asked for announcements, and a guy stood up, a guy named Jake Sean, and Jake says, I'm sinking into a depression. He said, I won't be here next week. I'm going to kill myself, and I want to say goodbye to all of my friends. And I thought, damn, I'm at home. I finally found somebody I could communicate with, even though he was leaving. So the chairman said to him, go ahead and do it, you son of a bitch. Nobody likes you anyway. I was home. About 10 minutes into the meeting, through the side door came 3 dykes, 2... see if that's on the list. No, I'm okay. Oh, it only says 1 dyke. I can't say 3. Okay. It's a weird list. Anyway, the 2 sober ones were carrying the drinking one, and as they came through the door, the drunken one dropped her purse, and out fell a gun, a bottle, and a dildo. Standard accoutrement for a dyke's purse, as far as I know. The 2 sober ones got to fighting over the contents of the purse, and the chairman kicked them out, and fighting in the parking lot, and they left the drinking one there, and she sobered up, and she never took a drink the rest of her life. And she said that she didn't drink because she was made welcome at that group. And I firmly believe that should say it for Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care who you are, what you think you are, or if you're schizophrenic, bring yourselves in here. It's all right. Room for everybody. I used to brag about that to my sponsor. Yeah, I'm schizophrenic. I can't help it. I did this and did that, and I could pose for a group picture by myself. And holy shit. Finally, he says to me, I hate to tell you this, but all of you are going to have to work the steps. Oh, yeah. So I got integrated pretty quick. Anyway, Aggie the Dyke sobered up. She was very upfront about things. That's the way she introduced herself. Hi, I'm Aggie the Dyke. And I thought, oh. That was pretty upfront in those days. We're talking about a long time ago, 1957. And she had a flat-top haircut and a tattoo of a Harley motor on one arm, and I'm not going to tell you what was on the other arm. Anyway. All right, it was a woman with a dick. We have no secrets here, yes. Aggie became one of the best friends I ever had, and what's more, she was a great 12-stepper. She was one of the kindest human beings I've ever met in my life. And there's a lot of people in AA today out in the San Gabriel Valley that are sober because of Aggie making the call. And I learned a lot from watching her and just simply being her friend. Get away from here, Emslin. Jesus. Ooh, maybe that'll do it. You notice how quick I was? The fastest gun in the West. I still do that. Although my neighbors don't pay any attention to it, so just before I left to come here, I mooned them. I'll try that. Do my best to offend. I've met a lot of wonderful people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the first night I came to that end of the line meeting, I met a guy that I used to drink with, and I thought, well, now, he's been sober for 6 months. I'll ask him to be my sponsor. Well, George turned out to have a liberal program. A few weeks into my sobriety, George and I were on our way to a meeting, the old end of the line group over at Pico and Alvarado. We stopped to get something to eat, and George ordered a ham sandwich and a bottle of beer. And I said, George, beer is a no-no. And he said to me, beer is a beverage, punk. Okay. George soon had another drunk driving charge to add to his list. He had another one after that. He did a year in the penitentiary and got out, and he was still drinking and carrying on. And some years after that, he was shot and killed by a bus driver in Santa Monica, shot through the heart. Now, bus drivers usually just kick your ass off the bus or call the cops, but this one shot George through the heart. So I knew George had been harassing him for some time. I rounded up everybody I could, and we went into court and testified for that guy. George had harassed like a lot of people, and he had. There was a long list. All you have to do years ago was mention his name up at the VA, and doors slammed and were locked, and it was. But I watched him because he was me, because he was lying to himself, and I knew how to do that. I knew how to bullshit myself right into the grave because I'd come close to doing it. And so I was lucky enough to find a man after that who was, he had what I wanted, and I heard him at a meeting, and he said, I'm sober today, and I'm not unhappy about it. And that was the problem. I was very unhappy about being clean and sober. I didn't like it at all. But I didn't know what else to do, and I thought, I'm going to stay clean and sober for a while and see how this works out. So I began to work the steps, and I worked them the first year I was sober because I was afraid not to. Then I worked them again that first year because by that time I had found out I wanted what was going on here. And so I've been to some great meetings and I've been to some bad meetings. I disagree with people that say, I've never been to a bad meeting. I think, well, now, wait a minute. I know a couple right up the street here that had better flashbacks than those goddamn things. I disagree with people that say it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. What it has gotten for me is different. What has gotten better is the ability to cope with what goes on, this so-called living thing that we're doing here. And there's some great times here for you if you stay clean and sober and you participate in them, instead of watching and waiting for the right time. If you wonder when the right time is to work the steps, it's now. Don't worry about overshooting the field. And relationships, I'm for relationships because they don't cause nearly as much trouble as book study groups. And and how else are you going to learn if you don't do something instead of watching somebody all the time? I always wanted to wait for the right time because I didn't want to make a mistake. And now, hell, I don't give a damn. I'll just make I'll make a fool of myself. I don't give a damn anymore. But it's taken a long time and a lot of practice to do that, because there was a time in my life when I just stood there by the coffee pot in the back of the room and looked good. Big book under one arm and a Bible under the other arm. That'll empty the hall. Try that. I became so obnoxious around the old 6300 club that my sponsor and the manager got together and they would send me out on fake 12-step calls to get rid of me. Being an AA fanatic, I brought people back. It was the first thing I did when I came here, and they gave me phone numbers and said, now, if you have an urge to take a drink, I don't care if it's 2:30 in the morning, you call me. And I said, all right. So I set my alarm and got up. Find out how sincere everybody was. But some of the 12-step calls I ended up on were something else. Because I called central office and I told them, if you have a really tough one, you send me. I'll go any place. I didn't care where the hell it was. And so I ended up in Hollywood one night, a call on a transvestite who was a dancer in a gay bar in Hollywood, and he used a boa constrictor in his act. And I'm not into snakes, and a boa constrictor anyway is too big to even think about. The damn thing, here it comes, crawling out of the closet, and had a big bulge in it. It had just eaten the neighbor's cat. And, yeah, well, I didn't know what to do with the guy, so I said, all right, look, I'll be here at 7 o'clock, and we're going to a meeting. So I took him to the Brentwood meeting, where there's a lot of female impersonators. Do I lie? Anyway, he kept saying to me, I'm not identifying. And there wasn't any gay meetings around in those days, so I didn't know what the hell to do with him. So I took him over to the Women's Stag on Ohio Street. And I said, you get in there. This is your last chance. Now, be nice. Get in there. And I came back after the meeting was over, and I said, well, you got by with your little masquerade, huh? And he said, oh, no, they knew what I was. I said, oh, really? What happened? He said they found out what he was from the very beginning. They made him go outside, and they voted on whether to let him stay or not. They voted to let him stay. And he said, why? And they said, because we have nothing to fear from you. Again, that should say it for Alcoholics Anonymous. What are we afraid of? Some over in the neck of the woods where I live, some of the pure alcoholics there say, oh, these goddamn dope fiends coming in here, they're going to corrupt Alcoholics Anonymous. Hell, dope fiends can't get across the street without don't walk signs. They're not going to corrupt anything. Don't worry about it, Christ. Some of the fun meetings that I've been to, one of them was up in Hollywood on a Saturday night, and there was a speaker running on, and about 10 minutes into his talk, he said, I have to be honest with you. He said, when it gets tough, I take a drink. And I said, what is this shit? A guy named Larry Blake was in the front row. Blake did not take anything from anybody. Blake yelled at him, you son of a bitch. He goes right up on the stage, literally grabbed this guy by the throat, drug him over to the side of the stage, and we hear a door slam. Bang! And here comes Blake back up to the podium. Good evening. My name is Larry Blake. I'm an alcoholic. I'm your speaker for this evening. And it's like nothing had ever happened. When I think about times like that, I think, well, what if I'd stayed home? Yeah, I'd have missed that. I met Jack. His name was John in those days. Anonymity, yeah. Met him up here on Ocean Park Boulevard, and some woman told me, she said, I thought you were the sickest son of a bitch I've ever seen come in here and make it more than 90 days. And what do you see this one? And so I said, all right. So we went to the meeting the next week, and there he was. And I met him, and we've been friends ever since. And I like the continuity of that, see. Because Jack put a lot of people on wheels that were walking and taking buses and riding bicycles and that sort of thing. He's done a lot of things around here. And I think anybody that's been around for some years, they better dig into their fears. They better dig into what some of the real problems are, because I put that off for a long time. I really didn't want to talk about my childhood. I didn't want to talk about the life that I had lived. Did you want to go to the restroom? What? Oh, she had her hand up. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Come on, I'm trying to show off my awareness. Might have been to a Catholic school. You got to raise your hand for everything there. Anyway, some of the great meetings that I've been to, there was a feeling in that room on some nights that you could slice with a knife. There's a spiritual feeling that seems to be here, and for me, a lot of it has to do with a sense of humor about this thing. Now, I take my program serious, but not somber or deadly. And I learned that early on when I was at a meeting up here at 26th and Broadway, and there was two guys sitting in the back row, and one of them was Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. The guy sitting next to him was Jimmy Burwell, who was responsible for God as you understand him being in the big book, which Wilson said is the greatest single contribution to Alcoholics Anonymous. And when it came their turn to talk, I thought, I'm going to learn the secret of life, just sure as hell. And I'd only been sober about a week. So Wilson rambles on about the wind blowing through him, and he's standing on the mountain, and the light comes on. He went on, and Burwell stopped him finally. He says, Bill, did you ever stop to think that was the guy in the next hospital bed turning on his night light? I was home. I found a place with a sense of humor, and I have never forgotten that night. And then I was at one of these Xanax meetings up the road here. They asked one of the inmates there to read chapter 5, and it took the poor guy 25 minutes. He was so slow. He mutilated 3-letter words. Jesus. He got to the part where it says, "We are not saints," and he read it, "We are now saints." He stopped and looked around and he said, "Isn't that wonderful?" Oh, yeah. Wait till you get out of here, ding dong, you'll find out. I was at this club one night years ago when it first started, and there was a little gay dude that used to hang around here, and I rode motorcycles in those days, and he evidently wanted a motorcycle buddy, and so he kept saying to me, "Sam, take me a ride on your motorcycle." No, Alexis, go talk to your sponsor and let me alone. Finally, I'd had enough of it. I said, "Get on." Threw a helmet on him, took him up on the freeway. We went 105 miles an hour, and I thought, that'll get rid of him. We got back here to the club, and he jumped off there at the back, and I said, "Well, what did you think of that, Alexis?" And he said, "I've always wanted to be a motorcycle bitch. I'm yours." Had to explain to him, it's biker bitch, not motorcycle bitch. Jeez. Learn the children. Well, if I'd stayed home watching Slip-O-Vision, I would have missed that. See, another night that I don't need to miss. If there's anything on television that I think I have to see, I just push the button on the machine and it tapes it, and then I can watch it when I come home, for Christ's sake. What's the big deal about something so important there? Because I know people get hung up on anything. Computers, my God, I know people that are joined at the hip with computers and television and like that. We will hide in anything. The best description I've ever heard of an alkie and a dope fiend is a person who can use up a year's supply of anything in 2 weeks. See, I always had a cleanup for that. I'd say to my sponsor, "You see, I'm of an addictive nature." And he'd say, "No, you're not. You're a pig." Oh, didn't realize that. He hadn't even taken my inventory, and he knew what was going on. So dig into your fears, dig into everything here that bothers you. And if somebody's sitting in judgment of you, screw them. You don't need that goddamn shit. No, I mean that. The hell with that. Who's ahead of anybody else? And you who are well-adjusted, will you raise your hand? Jack, stop. Nobody would believe him. I'm no longer at the mercy of my old-time thinking. And that's only because I came here and stayed clean and sober long enough to do something about it. And I haven't done anything that anybody else can do. All you have to do is do it. Get out there and try and do something and look bad if that's what you have to do. But do it and have a sense of humor here. And if you're going to have bad times, don't let anybody shit you about that. But you will learn how to get through it. You go through it enough times and enough pain, you'll get sick to death of it, and you do something about it. At least that's been my experience here. And in watching other people, I'm a great watcher of other people. I like to do that. And so I even watch my neighbors. I watch all kinds of, you'd be surprised who you can learn from. I've got a neighbor who's a treatment center counselor, but he smokes pot. And not mentioned in the book. So he smokes out on the back porch, and sometimes I wait for him to go in the house. I come home from meetings right about the time he's doing that, and so I wait for him to go to bed, and I put Easy Does It bumper stickers on his truck. So stir it up around here. I mean, come on, have a good time. That's what it's all about, is doing the best you can with what you got to work with. And I'm lucky to be alive. I mean, I've been sober so goddamn long that just to be able to stand upright and breathe, I better count my blessings there, because And I'm still trying to ride my motorcycle, although I got to admit it, I don't admit it back east where I live, but I'll admit it here, and that is I fell off the goddamn thing this year, right into the bushes. Big old scars and scratches. The neighbors all applauded. Wanted me to do it again. I smile and just think, wait till tonight. I still think about revenge and think about things like that. I just don't act on it anymore. What's the point? I don't want to waste my time on all that. I'm too busy having fun around here. I don't want to get all that upset about things. Of course, I stand up for what I believe. I'm not going to look the other way when things happen or deny it, which is what we're heavy into here. Years ago, I saw a television thing that I had worked on, and they had in there a guy who was drunk, and they dropped him, and he fell down in this mud puddle, and then they picked him up, and he says, "Did I fall down?" And they said, "No," and he says, "I didn't think so." And I identify with that. It's the lie, the denial of everything that goes on in my life. And I come to meetings because I learned so much here, and there are so many wonderful people here that I have met, that I have been friends with for a long time. And I got to tell you, that is a life-sustaining thing. There is a healing process that takes place in our meetings, and whoever you believe in, I don't know what to believe in some days. I believe in the power that created this universe, and then that's it. I think he created us and split. Yeah, think about it. We're God's Late Late Show. Yeah, he's up there watching. What are they going to do next? Yeah, tune in tonight and find out. I believe God's will for me is trial and error. Doing something and finding out if it works, and if it doesn't, then don't do it again, or try it later on, or whatever. It doesn't make that much difference. Just keep on going. And so this has been a hell of a wild year for me. I've had a lot of problems with doctors and with the physical things. My God, I've had cancer, I've had open heart surgery, I've had this, I've had that, on and on. And every time I saw a doctor for a couple of years there, I just laid down and said, "Take what you want." And they did. My friend Lauren up the road here, he's had some of those problems too, and he kind of straightened me out on some of it. He's had the probe, the probe, they're doing the thing, and nowadays they take pictures of everything. I mean, who needs a picture of that? Come on. And they got a camera on the damn thing, and there's a screen here, and you can look at it, and the doctor's saying, "Oh, look," and Jesus, shut up, leave me alone. When it happened to Lauren, he called me and he says, "Well, I had that thing they did to you a couple of years ago," and he said, "It's a hell of a thing to find out when you're 80 years old that the most beautiful part of your body is 18 inches up your ass." So the fun of old age, screw it. So come on in here and work these steps. Don't worry about overshooting the field. You know, what's his name up the road here? He's waiting for a vacancy in the Trinity. The Bin Laden group. There's room for everybody in here, and nobody's ahead of anybody else. Some of us have been here longer than others, and that's all that means. It's the same set of 12 steps for all of us. So come on in here and get your version of a higher power going for you, and live, experience, do things, feel things, complain, nag, whine. We're all part-time members of Snivelers Anonymous. Do it. Get it out of your system, and then get up and go on. I can tell you tonight that my name is Sam, and by God, I am for real, but only because I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and not for any other reason. That's it. Give me the bottle.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I don't not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.